Okay, today I'll be taking a look at damage returned toolboxes that you can pick up that the manufacturers sell off on eBay or store vendors, etc. Now, a lot of people are saying they've had a lot of bargains buying these. You can pick these up cheap at a fraction of the cost of the original item. Obviously they're going to come with a few dents and dings and a few bends in them. All toolboxes are made from sheet metal, so it's going to require some bending and probably pushing a few dents back out of place. You're obviously going to have some chip paint, some cracked paint that you're going to have to probably scrape off and then retouch back up again with some metallic paint, something like a white hammerite or blue, red, you know, whatever colour your toolbox is, black maybe, hammerite paint, or even some auto paint that's for car bodies, because it's obviously a metal paint. So you're going to have that, and you're more than likely going to have that around the corners. But we'll take a look and see. I thought it'd be a good project. We'll pick one up for next to nothing, for a fraction of the cost, and we'll see how easy it is to repair, how we go about repairing it, and what it looks like after, and whether you get a bargain or not.
Okay, now on eBay and places like that, you usually see tool companies selling off their toolboxes that have got a slight mark or a nick or a corner that's had some of the paint scraped off it and things like that. And you can buy them at a knockdown price, or bid on them to buy them at a knockdown price. I don't know, some people saying they do. What have you spent that money on that toolbox for? You could have just buy one that's got a nick in a corner or something. You're gonna knock your toolbox about anyway. You're gonna scratch it up and ding it up anyway. You might as well buy one at a fraction of the price and bid on one of these ones that somebody's sent back that they didn't like, or has been damaged when it's been at the warehouse or the factory, and they're selling it off a knockdown price. So I've just wondered, is it worth doing? So I thought, well, the one, the tool chest that I made out of the ammo box is great. It does its job, but I kind of would like something that's more accessible for my socketry, my sockets and my ratchets and things like that. So I thought, well, I'd bid on one and see if we can get one like that for a knockdown price. Now, I managed to get this one at a fraction of the cost that it is usually. Obviously it is still brand new, but there's a few dents in it. From here you can see that there's a little just a little outwards kind of knock from the inside, a dent from the inside, and a little one there, a little one there, and a little chip on the paint there. Now obviously there's cracked paint as well on those knocks. So, but for me, for the cost what I picked the unit up for, a fraction of the cost of they usually are. This particular model is usually about £70. It's the US Pro Tools, like the toolbox we bought before, to put some of my bits and bobs in. But Sealy, actually, it is exactly the same. You can tell and see it's exactly the same toolbox that Sealy sell for a little bit more than that as well. I think the Sealy one's in red, but the Pro Tools obviously do red and blue and black and white. Obviously the white is good for me because it's the theme that I've been doing on the previous toolboxes. So obviously I managed to pick one of these up. This one's white, black drawers though, but I'm not too bothered about that. To be honest, I wouldn't have been bothered if I picked one of these up and it was red or it was blue. It was very cheap for what it is, and you know, obviously certain this one here, this sticks out a little bit further. This one side of the sheet metal here sticks out a little bit further, so it does impede the drawers. The drawers do come out, but you kind of have to pull them a little bit towards the left. they do come out just fine. Again, that one, pull it to the left and it'll open, and it's pretty much the same thing, you know, all the way along, but it does get very close to this edge. So obviously that needs to be pushed in or bent in. Now, is it hard to for what you pay to get these? Obviously it's workable as it is. You could just put a bit of grease or WD-40 as well, which would help, down on there, and use it. And for what I paid, for the fraction of what you've managed to get it for on eBay, it's brilliant for the job. Well, so you know, it's got the locking bars in there as well, and the top, everything's pretty much as it should. It does kind of work. Like I say, there's just the odd nicks, as you can see, the one there, and that one that's come out there at the side a little bit, but it doesn't stop the way it works. You are going to knock your toolbox about it, but I can understand people wanting to send things back. They're paying, you know, the original £70 or whatever it is for it. But now, when it comes to repairing, obviously I did do some sheet metal work in my original engineering training, even though I was more involved in tool making. But it's fairly easily enough done. Some people would obviously get a hammer and start knocking it back into place, but you could, this edge here, you could use a punch and a hammer, more accurate, a punch with a flat tip, obviously, not a pointed one, because that would do. That'd be stupid. That'd do a lot of damage. Okay, so another good way of fixing things like the dents there is to get like a flat block of wood and a G-clamp. If you want to put a cloth or a rag in between there and the toolbox surface, you can. That might help stop you chipping paint off, but the paint's chipped off there anyway, so it's no big concern there for me. Obviously, just pick up a bit of white metal paint, which I've got to do for another appliance that's had some chipped off anyway, so it's no big deal for me. For the fraction of the price you pay, then I'd say it is worth it, but it depends on, you know, it is also a bit of a lottery. You might get one that's even more damaged than mine here, that really is. But again, you read the description, it does tell you. They do just kind of stick a foam bubble wrap around it and send it to you like that. So don't expect, you know, a real good, oh well, it's damaged, they bought it as damaged kind of thing, you know. Let's sell it, you know. Let's just put the bubble wrap on it and chuck it in the back of the wagon, and it goes. So it might come with a. It may come with a few more corners that with a bit of paint off than when it left the depot. So there is that to consider as well. But obviously, the tighter you turn that, you got the block. You try and get the block as flat as you can. You do it You might have to do it a few times, or it's already going in. The dent's already going in there, as you can see, back in, and that will. As soon as you tighten it up and put the pressure on, that will force the metal back into position. Some smaller clamps for what we saw here might be useful, but like I said, if you've got a flat tipped punch, you could put it in on the end there and just lightly hit that. You will have to probably go back over the paintwork again with a little brush and some white metal paint. Like I say, the clamp, the G clamp again, over there, on there, we'll push that back in. But the small G clamp, if you can get one on there, and on there, with a, like I say, a bit of rag in between, because the paint's not chipped here. In between the jaw of the, just put a bit of cloth or a rag in between the jaw of the, or a bit of thin bit of card, like off a cereal box, between the jaw of the clamp and the metal, the paintwork, to stop it being scratched up again even more. And obviously you apply the pressure, and that will close the that side in further, so that won't be getting in the way as it did. So we'll have a go with the clamp and see how we get on. Okay, so you can see after we've had a go at it, we just used a second clamp to keep the wood in place. Obviously we're using that straight edge on that piece of wood as a guide to reform the metalwork. As you can see, it's back in line again now, and that's just by twisting the other clamp down and putting the pressure on. If you find that you are getting a little bit of resistance and there's still some sticking out, you can obviously get yourself a bar. I'll just grab this extension bar and just put it on the end of, use it like a cheater bar, just put it on the end and just torqued it down, and that flattened out the mark in there. Now I did say that you are going to have some paint if you don't put a cloth or a piece of card underneath, but this part of this corner was chipped anyway, it was flaked anyway, as we saw before, so it didn't make no odds there. Even a white paint car touch-up pen from Halfords would cover those marks up and those kind of corners up there. Obviously a smaller G clamp would be ideal for along here. This one should be fine, I think, to reach over there and there, and do that up. So yeah, it is worth buying it, and like I've just showed you, it is easy to it is easy to repair the sheet metal problems that you will have, and for a fraction of the price. Over time your toolbox is going to get knocked about anyway. I know you don't like that, but especially if you work in a professional environment, you're taking it into work, or as a mechanic or an engineer or whatever, it's going to get scratched, it's going to get people walk. If you have to put it in your place to the side by the wall or on the floor, you can have people with the steel toe cap boots walking past it, and there's going to be the odd there's going to be the odd mark and things like that on them anyway. Obviously people don't intentionally do that, but that's just the way it is. When I worked in engineering, the two guys that were already there in the tool shop kind of had monopoly on the place where their toolboxes were going to be, and you have to kind of have to, where your toolbox is going to end up being is where the space is for it to be, and you do actually have that thing to deal with. Like I say, I used two cantilever boxes that are left on top of each other because of that, but the size of something like this could have been used as well, because it's basically as wide as a cantilever box, just a little bit wider, and we could say as wide as a big cantilever box, and it's probably as high as two of them on top of each other. So it's in fact, in that way of looking at things, I'd rather buy one at a fraction of the cost like this, that I've squeezed all the dents back out of the corners, and chuck it down in the and that's lockable. Obviously, and the lock does work. The lock does work fine on them. So and locks the drawers when it's locked as well. You've got those the two pillars or the pylons to put through, the metal bars to put through anyway as well, for locking. I'd rather do something like that, and then if it's scratched and knocked about, then it doesn't cost you something than buying one of these that was £70, putting it in the tool room and letting it get knocked about by people coming in and out and around by it, and carrying like bars of metal and doing work on the power hacksaw and things like that, and knocking against your toolbox with a bar of metal or anything like that, which does happen, and you've just scratched a £70, because people don't give a shit. That's what people are like in general. If they can get away to do something, get away with it, they will. So that way then you've scratched a £70 version of the box. Then the one say you've picked up for 15-20 quid, and just ironed out all the creases and and put a little bit of touch up paint on the corners. It's going to get scratched anyway, so all in all, yeah, I'd say it's worth doing if you can fix the sheet metal problems. I've just showed you an easier way than hammering. I can imagine a lot of people doing it and hammering the crap out of it and chipping loads of paint and everything off everywhere, all over the place. But a couple of G-clamps. G-clamps are the one that, because of the screw on there, the one that you'll get most if you stick a cheater bar on the end of it. I just used a quick just the inside of an old 1/2-inch extension on the end there as a cheater, and just got some more torque out of it and completely flattened out the sheet on that corner. But yeah, it is possible to do it, and it is worthwhile. I've just showed you basically how you can repair it with no hassles. I'll show you what I mean by the punch method, but I'd use a small clamp anyway. Obviously that's what I mean by punch with a flat tip on it there. And you could obviously run that. That's obviously better than a pointed. A pointed one's just gonna, put a drill punch hole, but put that in the edge, and you could run that down there. But you could also put a flat piece of wood in there before you hit it with the punch. That would help keep it straight. But I think again a smaller G-clamp with the pressure that you can put on that screw would be better in there. And obviously with a bit of card or something to stop the paint from flaking off when you put the pressure on either side, would be better. But yeah, we'll take a look at it at the end when it's all been done, all been flattened out, and the tools and everything are all in there. Actually, an even better, easier way of doing the inside edge here is with a rag. Put a rag over so it'll cover up both sides of the paint, and just get a pair of pliers like these, and then just gently apply the pressure all the way down slowly, and that'll form that inside edge and bend that back in again. You can see it's already starting to go back at the top there. So that's an even easier way of doing it. The small G-clamp would work obviously in the same way, but you might find that an easier way to do it. Like I say, it's getting a bit dark now, so we'll take a look later. Flatten that one out a little bit more. Just a few more goes with that. I'm not too concerned about that, to be honest, for the price I paid for this. But a few more goes should flatten that back out like it did the top lip. So we'll have a look with the tools in when it's all done. Okay, so we kind of got it done now. We just unlock it, lift it up, put some tools in there. That's great for going in the top, because the lid will just lift up with that, and it's all set out. I stuck that draper DIY just down there, down the side. You can fit our big extra long 1/2-inch Bergen ratchet down the back, and it'll just fit down there. It's good, because although I probably wouldn't use this DIY ratchet too much, there are some quick grab Torx sockets on there, so they might be used. So
So we flatten that out a little bit. Could probably spend a little bit more time on it, but I'm not really too fussed, to be honest with you, at the minute. I was more interested in getting the action of the draw sorted out. So we've got that bent in a little bit more, and also what you can do if you can get a screwdriver, and when you pull your individual drawers rails out, because it was a little bit more to this side, and you can see a slightly bigger gap that side, so it's obviously when it's been made as well. The bending of the sheet metal, what they use to make the toolboxes out of, it's obviously been bent more to this side and favoured to this side. So if you get yourself a screwdriver as well, just down the side of the thick bit of this rail here, just down there, and do a little bit of levering, just gently, and do it on each of the drawer on this side, and just lever it ever so slightly to the left, this way, pull it slightly this way, just lever it that way slightly with a screwdriver down there, and just lever it very gently. Don't do it too hard, obviously, because you'll break it or pop it off the rails. But yeah, and once the weights are in the drawers as well, it does just slide straight out. Now there is some slight contact still. Like I say, if you just work it a little bit gently with the levering, and you'll bend that one sheet that those rails are attached to out to where it should have been positioned in the first place. So, but once the weight's in there, obviously it brings it more across as well, over to that side. I'll say I've put a bit of tools in there, ideal for me socketry, which is what I wanted it for. To make some extensions in here. Oh, this is that. While we're here, that was the snap-on. Let me focus on that. There we go. That was the snap-on that I found in my old cantilever work toolbox. It's FXK 8 USA branded 3/8 extension, which, although it's perfectly fine, there's a bit of rust around the male end, but I noticed the female end, as you can see, it's all like a bit chewed up on the chamfered edge there. Obviously that doesn't make it's a bit rusty as well inside there. That doesn't make it's obviously still in good working order, because it's the depth of the extension obviously that matters, the female end that matters, that locks the drive in there. But you know, I was a little bit, snap-on didn't quite, for me at work, I didn't really use as an engineering toolmaker. I didn't really, and the occasional job that I had, maintaining machines, which is where they was mainly used. It didn't really get used that much, to be honest with you. Obviously they did in the maintaining machines, but overall nowhere near as much as what a mechanic would be. And this is the high carbon steel 1/2 inch one that I used, and there really isn't much, not even much rust or anything on that whatsoever. So expensive brand designer tools, do they really always, obviously they're good tools, they do the job, and it's still going and it's still working, and I did use it for years. But there's some rust fleshings on it, and flashings, and there's a bit of chewing on the metal on the edges there, so they don't always it doesn't always, in my book, always tend to pan out that way. I got nothing against snap-on in particular, but they are, these are very expensive tools to snap on, and as you can see, that like I showed with the Heiko stuff, again very expensive tools. rust on there. Yeah, very strong, it's lasted, but there was rust on the Heiko one, and like I say, there was a bit of chewing and rust on the snapper. So you don't always necessarily, you know, in my opinion, get what you pay for all the time. Or, you know, sometimes you think some things might just be a bit overpriced, and I think that's where we're going with that. You know, all I can say is that none of my other old ratchets like that I used at work, I showed you the cheap carbon steel half-inch one as well. There's no rust or markings or anything like that on that one, but you know, there is on the snap-on one. So, you know, but again, that's off tangent. Back to the box, like I say, I haven't filled all these drawers up yet, but you know, once the weight's in there, this side I don't really have a problem with coming out anyway. It's more this side and this, the one that was close to this side, the middle. So you know, it's all, obviously the key's getting jammed now, but it's all hunky-dory now. I see nothing in that one, but get a little bit. That one was getting more stuck on the way back in, but again, it's just something I can work on in that area. A little bit of levering of the drawer on the rail itself. That way, with the sheet metal, the rail has actually probably been riveted to, which will bring it back in, and probably a little bit of working on this. So you can see there's a slight bump out there still. Let's probably work that back in, bend that back in again a little bit there, slowly with a clamp or something. It'll be back to, but that's not a big deal, is it? A little bit of just a little bit of an extra push. It's not a big deal to me, to be honest with you, for what I paid. Like I said, I'd rather, if it was something for work, after being in that situation before and seeing them get knocked about and other people's, like a buckle or a zip or something on someone's coat, walking past somebody's side of somebody's toolbox and scratching the paint at the side and things like that, and you know, carrying metal bars around and knocking it and scratching and things like that. I'd personally rather buy a toolbox like this and fix it back up to use like that and bung it into the workplace. It's like in here in the workshop, it's going to be it's going to get knocked about and things like that. You know what I mean, I'm always in there working around. It's going to get scratched, it'll get scratched, you know what I mean. It's so but again, it's nice that it's in white, so it's keeping with the theme. Same brand again, US Pro Tools. Obviously on eBay they do sell a lot of these you know, slight knocks and damages and things like that to bid on. Sometimes you'll get one run up high in the bidding, you know, near enough as much as it costs to buy it brand new. So do your homework. Don't be somebody that pays near 70 quid. You know, don't pay 65 quid for something that's 65 plus, you know, for something that's 70 quid anyway to buy brand new, you know, with no knocks or anything like that. But you know, you certainly can get a lot of value out of it. I'll say it's a toolbox. It's going to get, I'm going to use it, pull drawers in and out, get my tools out, get oil and all sorts of stuff nearby it, and working by it, so if we get knocked about a little bit. But yeah, certainly for the workplace, if you can do that and use the techniques I showed you to get it back working order again, yeah, it's certainly worthwhile doing that. If you do knock it about at work, it's not going to make much odds. You've paid a fraction of the price, you know, that you would for it. Like I say, brilliant for the money. Put your hands on. So, like I say, yeah, they are worth picking up, and you can get them at a fraction of the price of the original boxes themselves. The tools, sometimes you might be able to get all your tools in a certain box, sometimes you won't. You know, that's the nature of the tool that you're picking up. Like I say, sheet metal work involves bending and forming the desired shape or item what you want. That's how the toolboxes are made. So it's just going to be reforming or reworking and bending the sheet metal itself. Sometimes those little rails, what the drawers slide into, those the holders themselves are riveted onto a sheet, and if the drawers, like we saw in this case, are a little bit over to one side, obviously that sheet that it's on wasn't in the manufacturing process wasn't bent particularly well to where it should have been. So you just get a screwdriver and you can, like I showed in the video, and lever them across and just bend it back to where it should have been when it was manufactured, and a bit of touch-up paint. You get yourself a nice unit for a fraction of the price. Well, a functional unit. There might still be the odd crease or the odd little mark or dent mark on it. It's visible to the eye, even though it's covered with paint. But you know, function-wise, there's really no big deal there. As a working box, like I say, back when I was in the tool room, the box would get knocked about anyway. You see other people carrying bars, and they would scratch the side of a box that was up, a toolbox that was up in the air, things like that. So maybe this way around, obviously they're still lockable and things like that, and all that works. So they can be used in the work environment. Now, this way around, if you're going to get dinged and knocked about, you know, this could be a good way to go, because it's already got a few on there anyway that you've dealt with. The G clamp, like I said to you, is a good non-destructive way of forming the metal back as flat as you can, instead of just hammering on it. Obviously a mallet won't damage the metal as much, but the paint's probably chipped and flaking anyway, so it really wouldn't make that much difference. But the you know, the gradual pressure of the clamp is less destructive than using a hammer. So it is worth picking them up at a fraction of the cost. But like I say, they do, when they delivered it, the item was delivered with just some foam, like not even bubble wrap, just foam wrapping around it. So that had been thrown around delivery wagons and all sorts and depot on it, wherever depots it stops off at on the way here. So it probably picks up a few more dings in those corners, what you see maybe from the journey, than what it was when it left. So you might find that it may actually come with a few more dings in it than you bought it for, but that's something to think about.